ॐ विश्वन्दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्मोद्धूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्रीपरमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवत्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः I welcome you all to the 17th class of our Bhagavad Gita study. We will read verse number 29 of the second chapter. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम्
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम्
आश्चर्यवत् वदति तथैव चान्यः
आश्चर्यवत् वदति तथैव चान्यः
आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति
आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति
श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्
श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्
Imagine an actor, a very wealthy actor, who has a certain role to play in a drama. And therefore, he enters the drama with his costume. And the costume involves a certain role and it has certain relationships. So he enters the play donning his costume. But he gets so involved with the costume and the role and the relationships that he forgets that he is really the actor. And having forgotten that he is really the wealthy actor, he mistakes himself to be the costume, to be the role, and he takes all the relationships to be the reality. And now there are ups and downs in the play. Originally, he was wealthy in the play and then he lost. He had to incur a lot of personal losses, professional losses, relationship losses. And he becomes a penniless beggar. And at that point, he really takes himself to be going through whatever is happening in the play. He starts to wail and cry, saying that I am a penniless beggar. And now the director has to step in. The director of the play has to step in and tell him what the reality is, that he is the actor who belongs to a higher order of reality. He continues to remain wealthy and unaffected by whatever has happened or is happening in the play. And knowing that he is the wealthy and unaffected actor, he should just continue with the role that he is playing. He should continue to go according to the script in the play. He should do the role that has been assigned to him in the play. Now, when we hear this, we might say that what a silly actor he is. How could he forget that he is the actor? But then, the irony of the situation is, this is the predicament of every human being. Because in the vision of Vedanta, every human being is really Brahman, that is full, complete, limitless, and Purna. And having donned the costume of this body and mind, one has entered, one has entered into this drama, this play called the world. And there is a certain costume, and the costume entails a certain role, and certain relationships are there. But one gets so involved in the costume, in the role, and the relationships, and one has forgotten one's real nature, that I am Brahman, I am full, limitless, complete, and Purna. And when one forgets one's real nature, one mistakes it to be something else, which is not one's real nature. And therefore, I have taken this costume to be me. I am this body mind. And this body mind happens to be deficient, wanting, inadequate, apurna. And being apurna, this person now starts to rely upon the world for one's purnatva. But the world doesn't operate according to my whims and fancies. The world is operating according to the script of the director, who is Bhagavan. And this being so, one goes through ups and downs because the world goes through ups and downs. And therefore, one experiences the symptoms of shokaha and moha. Situation is very similar to the actor who forgot his real nature and experiences shokaha and moha in the play. And therefore now Arjuna is experiencing shokaha and moha on the battlefield of Mahabharata. And seeing his predicament, the director Bhagavan himself has to step in. And what does Bhagavan tell Arjuna? He tells Arjuna that you belong to a higher order of reality. You are full, limitless, and complete. You are Brahman. Being the Atma that is Brahman, you are Brahman. You are full, limitless, and complete, and you are not affected by anything that happens in this play called the world. And therefore, knowing that you are full, limitless, complete, Purnaha, you should just continue to do what needs to be done in the play. This teaching Bhagavan is giving Arjuna, and through Arjuna, Bhagavan is teaching all of us. Because it is purely a case of mistaken identity. All of these problems of shokaha and mohaha are a product of mistaken identity, just as the actors shokaha and mohaha are a product of his mistaken identity. And therefore, the only way out in case of the actor who is suffering in the play is to awaken him to his real nature of being the wealthy actor. Similarly, the only solution here is to awaken the person who is suffering, who is going through the symptoms of shokaha and mohaha. The only solution is to awaken him to his real identity. And therefore, Atma Jnanam is the only solution. And that is why Bhagavan is giving Arjuna this Atma Jnanam. And therefore, Bhagavan tells Arjuna that you are Nityaha, you are immortal as the Atma. Just as the actor continues even when the role finishes, even when the role completes and he takes off his costume, the actor continues. The actor doesn't end with the role or the costume. He may hang up his costume, the actor continues unaffected. The actor is Nityaha in relation to the costume. Gold is Nityaha in relation to the ornaments. Similarly, you, the Atma, are Nityaha. And you are Satyaha. If we take the example of gold and ornaments, then the gold has its independent existence. The gold alone exists independently. The ornaments only have a dependent existence. The ornaments have borrowed existence. The ornaments are only names and forms of gold. Similarly, being the Atma, that is Brahman, you alone exist independently, and everything here, the Mithya world, doesn't have its own existence. It depends upon you for its existence. So you are Satyaha and you are Sarvagataha. You are all pervading, just as the gold pervades all the ornaments. The ornaments cannot exist without the gold, and therefore, for the ornament to exist, the gold has to pervade the ornament. Similarly, you, the Atma, being Brahman, since you are the only Satya, you have to pervade this world for this world to even exist, for the Nama Rupas to exist. For you are Sarvagataha. And you are aprameyaha. I am aprameyaha. I am never an object of any knowledge because I am the one who is illumining that knowledge, being the very consciousness principle. And I don't need to be an object of any knowledge because I, being of the nature of consciousness, I am self-revealing. And I am akarta, just as the screen is not involved in any of the things the characters do. The screen is akarta. Similarly, I, being the Atma, am totally uninvolved in whatever actions the body and mind are doing. I support the body mind, and in fact, I support the entire world, but I am not involved in any action. Therefore, I am akarta and I am abhokta. I never enjoy nor do I suffer when the body mind enjoys or suffers, just as the screen never enjoys or suffers, even if the character is going through enjoyment or suffering. And I am sthanuhu. Sthanuhu, I am still, I am stable. Because there is no place where I can move, because there is no place where I am not for me to move. I am sthanuhu and I am achalaha, I am motionless. And I am sanatanaha, even though I am ancient. I was there countless srishtis before this one. I continue to be, and I continue to be ever fresh. I never become stale. I never become obsolete. I am sanatana. And I am avikaryaha, I am changeless. I am achintyaha, I am never an object of the mind. I am avyaktaha, I am never an object of the senses. So this is the teaching that Bhagavan gives Arjuna, that Atma is of this nature. And whenever Bhagavan says Atma is of this nature, I translate it to understand that I am of this nature. This is my real nature. And Bhagavan says that having understood yourself to be of this nature, there is no reason to grieve. Then in this shloka, Ascharyavat Pashyati Kaschidenam, Bhagavan is glorifying the extraordinary nature of Atma, the extraordinary nature of Atma Jnanam. So Bhagavan says, Ascharyavat Pashyati Kaschid Kaschid Enam Atmanam Ascharyavat Pashyati. So Bhagavan says that Kaschit means this rare Jnani. A rare Jnani looks upon the Atma as a wonder. And why does he look upon the Atma as a wonder? We take the example of the lady with the necklace. The lady with the necklace mistook herself to be the lady without the necklace. And then she went in search of the necklace. in the futile search of the necklace, an endless search of the necklace, because she thought that the necklace was lost, the necklace was elsewhere. But when she finds out that the necklace is right on her neck, and she looks upon it as a wonder, she wonders, how did I even miss it? Similarly, the Jnani too looks upon the Atma as a wonder, because the Ajnani takes oneself to be deficient, wanting, inadequate, Purnaha, and then goes in search of Purnatvam everywhere. And when he comes to know that this Purnatvam that he has been seeking all over the place, it is hidden in the most unlikely place. In fact, it happens to be his own real nature. When he comes to appreciate this, then he looks upon it as a wonder, much like the lady with the necklace looks upon the necklace on her neck as a wonder. Because it lies in a place that one had never suspected it would be, as my own real nature. And the fact that my own real nature is Purnatvam is such a great wonder. So the Jnani, when we say the Jnani looks upon the Atma as a wonder, in fact, the Jnani is looking upon himself, his own real nature as being a wonder, because it is this Purna Vastu. It is full, complete, limitless. And therefore, Jnani looks upon himself as a wonder. And then we said there's another way of looking at this verse also, that the Jnani who knows the Atma, such a Jnani is a wonder. And why do we say that? Like Bhagavad says, Saha aneka sahasreshu kaschid eva bhavati. There's a vakyam from the Bhashya. He is one amongst several thousand people. You could even say he's probably one amongst several tens of thousands or even millions of people. He is one amongst them who is a rare one. And therefore the Jnani is a wonder. Why is the Jnani rare? What are the other several thousand people doing? They have all mistaken the Atma. They don't really know the Atma. They have mistaken the Atma to be deficient, wanting, inadequate. And then they go in search of the Purnatvam everywhere. They look for Purnatvam through the pursuit of Artha, Kamaha, and Dharmaha. Through the Anitya Vastu, one is looking for this Purnatvam that one can never find. And therefore, the majority of the humanity is stuck in the endless struggle for fulfillment that we call samsara. And therefore, this is not an uncommon sight. We see this all over the place. This is like Pujya Swamiji says, water going downhill. There is no rarity there. On the other hand, if we see water going uphill, then it is a wonder, because water going uphill takes a lot of power, takes a lot of energy. And therefore, this Jnani who has discovered his own Purnatvam has gone against the tide, against the tide. And therefore, this is because the grace of Ishvara is there, grace of the Guru has been there, grace of Satsanga has been there. He has done Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana to discover his own Purnatvam, and therefore this is a rare sight. This is an uncommon sight, and therefore we look upon the Jnani as a wonder. And then Bhagavan moves on to the second quarter. You look at the second quarter. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah. So tatha eva cha vadati. Tatha eva. Tathaiva is there. We split it as tatha eva. Tatha eva. Ascharyavat vadati. Tatha eva cha anyah ascharyavat vadati. So tatha eva cha vadati. Similarly, one says, one speaks. And who speaks? Anyaha tatha eva cha anyaha vadati. Anyaha vadati means another speaks. And who is this another? A jnani who is a guru. A jnani guru speaks. That is what it means. That's what anyaha means here. A rare jnani guru speaks. Tatha eva cha anyaha vadati. And what does he talk about? We can supply enam atmanam tatha eva cha anyaha enam atmanam vadati. So also a guru speaks, a rare guru speaks about the Atma. And how does he speak? Again, ascharyavat. Ascharyavat. Like a wonder. So the guru also speaks about it like a wonder. So generally, any wonder is a wonder only for the very first time that one sees it. There are, like we have talked about, many wonders of the world. So one looks at some brochure and then sees, oh, there is this wonder of the world. Let me go and make some plans to visit that place. And then one goes there and takes a flight or whatever, goes on a long journey, goes there. And then initially one looks at the wonder and says, aha, oh, what a great wonder it is, and all that. But then one then roams around that whole place for a while. And after a while, one's legs start to ache perhaps, and so one takes a seat somewhere. And then instead of looking at the wonder, one starts to look around, who are the people who are visiting, or are there any other refreshments here, something like that. So any wonder, after a while, it ceases to be a wonder once you have seen it. And there are some silly things also that are included in the wonders of the world, etc. They all pale in comparison when you bring in the Atma. All of this, whatever wonders of the world we are talking about, they are all anitya vastu. But then, since our outward directed senses can't find anything else that is greater, we say that these are the seven wonders of the world, etc. Because the senses have not seen the Atma, and the senses cannot see the Atma. And therefore, the Atma is the greatest wonder. And the Guru continues to talk about the Atma as being a wonder, even if he has been teaching, or even if he has been speaking about the Atma for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it be. The Guru talks about the Atma as a wonder. In fact, Bhagavan also talks about the Atma as a wonder. And therefore, the one who talks about it talks about the Atma as a wonder. And we can look at it the other way also. Just as we said, the Ascharyavat can be an adverb that qualifies the verb pashyati or vadati. He sees it with a wonder, or he speaks about it like a wonder. So it qualifies the verb. Or we can say it qualifies Atma. It becomes an adjective to Atma or an adverb to the verb like Pashyati or Vadati. But the Ascharyavat can also become an adjective to the one who is knowing, the one who is speaking. And therefore, we can also take it as the one who speaks about the Atma is a wonder. Because the same statement that Bhagavad says, Saha Aneka Sahasreshu Kaschideva Bhavati, applies to the one who speaks about the Atma also. And why is it so? Because the one who speaks about the Atma, the one who teaches the Atma, is also a rare phenomenon. Why? Because the universities across the world are offering so many courses. Is there any course on Atma Jnanam? Whatever the universities are teaching, it is all Anatma Jnanam. They all teach the non-self. Why? Because the senses can only see the non-self. What they are teaching is only sensory knowledge. Knowledge that has been gathered through the senses. Therefore, it is all Anatma Jnanam. And therefore, the one who teaches Atma Jnanam, the one who teaches the Atma, is also rare, and therefore a wonder. And the second point is that the teacher of Atma is also not ordinary. There is something extraordinary about the teacher of Atma also, because he is using words, and the words the words cannot directly communicate the Atma. As we have seen that the Vachyartha of any word, the primary meaning of any word, cannot be Brahman, cannot be Atma. And therefore, Atma is understood only through the implied, through the secondary meaning, through the Lakshyartha of the words. Therefore, the wonder is that he is using words that cannot communicate the Atma, but still he manages to communicate the Atma. When he talks, it gives rise to the Atma Jnanam in the mind of the listener through the Lakshyartha of the words. And this is possible only when one is familiar with the sampradaya, the teaching tradition, of how to employ the words. Because employment of the words has got a lot of pitfalls. And therefore, avoiding the pitfalls, one has to communicate. And therefore, the one who communicates this jnanam, the one who awakens the listener through the wonder of Atma, the one who awakens the listener through his own wonder, the one who brings about this awakening in the student, such a guru is also rare. And therefore, the guru is a wonder, the teaching sampradaya is a wonder, the guru shishya parampara is a wonder. And then Bhagavan says, Ascharyavat cha enam anyaha shrunoti. So shrunoti means he listens. And who listens? Anyaha cha shrunoti. Another listens, Bhagavan says. And who is the another being talked about here? The student listens. And what does he listen to? Enam ascharyavat cha enam anyaha shrunoti. So, enam atmanam shrunoti. So, anyaha cha enam atmanam shrunoti. So, another listens about this Atma. And how does he listen? He listens to it like a wonder. Ascharyavat. Anyaha cha enam atmanam ascharyavat shrunoti. So he listens to it like a wonder. And why does he listen to it like a wonder? Because what the Guru is talking about is the very self. He's talking about me. I have been using the word I all my life without understanding what this I really is. Therefore, I am being talked about. And I never suspected that this I could be something so wonderful. I have always taken myself to be this limited body mind that is deficient, wanting. But now I'm coming to know, I'm coming to learn that this I is something so wonderful. It is not this anitya body mind, but it is the nitya atma. It is not the mithya body mind, but it is the satya atma. And it is not limited to this body mind, but it is sarvagata. In fact, as Brahman, as the Atma that is Brahman, I am Nityaha, Satyaha, Sarvagataha, Aprameyaha, Akarta, Abhokta, Sthanuhu, Achalaha, whatever we have talked about, everything is a wonder. And the greatest wonder is that I am the Adhishthanam of this entire world. I, being Brahman, I am the substratum of this entire world. In me, this world has arisen. By me, this world is sustained. And into me, this world resolves. And therefore, even listening to it, one listens to it with wonder. And then again, using the similar methodology, we can take Ascharyavat to be an adjective that qualifies the one who listens. So even the one who listens to it is a wonder, Bhagavan says. And why is that so? Because only one saha aneka sahasreshu kaschit eva bhavati, only one in several thousand people actually come to listen to this also. Because coming to listening to it with commitment implies that certain things have already happened, that one has reasonably diagnosed the problem, that one has seen the limitations of the world, and having seen the limitations of the world, one has become a mumukshu, means a seeker of the nitya vastu. But then one has also come to understand that being a mumukshu alone is not enough, that mumuksha has to get converted into jignyasa. The seeker of moksha must become a seeker of jnana, because the root cause of all of my suffering is ajnana. And the only solution is Atma Jnanam. This understanding has also come. And then it is, once one has become a seeker of this Jnanam, one has to understand that this Jnanam only comes through the appropriate Praman. And that Pramana is Vedanta. Even this understanding has to take place. And then the Jigyasuhu becomes a Sushrushuhu. The seeker of Jnanam becomes a seeker of Shravanam. So these are the steps involved before somebody takes up Shravanam with commitment. Consistent and systematic study of the Vedanta Shastra for a length of time. If one has to take this up, then it indicates that a certain amount of transformation has already happened in the listener. And this transformation is also rare. This is why Bhagavan says that the one who listens to it with commitment is also rare and is a wonder. And then in the last quarter, Shrutva, Shrutva pyenam vedana chaiva kaschit, Shrutva api enam veda na cha eva kaschit. So na eva veda cha, na eva veda cha, meaning that now Bhagavan is talking about one who doesn't understand also after listening. So he says, na eva veda cha, one doesn't know or understand at all. Says, na eva veda cha, one doesn't know or understand. And who? Kaschit. So someone else doesn't know or understand. So who is Bhagavan talking about here? An unqualified listener, an unqualified student. He doesn't know or understand. Understand what? Enam Atmanam. We can supply Enam Atmanam. Kaschid Enam Atmanam na eva veda. Kaschid Enam Atmanam na eva veda. So somebody else does not understand this Atma. Having done what? Shrutva api. Shrutva api means even after having heard, even after having listened to it, one doesn't understand. So Bhagavan is saying that it is a wonder that one doesn't understand also after having heard about it. Because one can go on for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. And then one may say that I have been listening to this for 15 years now, 20 years, 25 years, whatever you're talking about is wonderful. But then how do I experience it? How do I experience it? This is the question. That even after having heard about it, the seeking has not come to an end. The seeking is continuing. In some form of the other, or the other, the seeking for Purnatvam is continuing. The purpose of this teaching is to bring an end to all seeking by understanding that Purnatvam happens to be my own nature. But then, even after having heard about it, the seeking continues. And therefore, it is a wonder that one doesn't understand. And whatever the Guru is talking about is, as we have said, is the student's real nature. It is he himself that is being talked about. It is not something that is unknown or separated from me in space and time. We are not talking about neutron stars or black holes that are not you and separated from you by space or time. We are not talking about such an entity. We are talking about you yourself that is not totally unknown to you. If you were totally unknown to you, then you wouldn't even be able to say I. The fact that I am saying I means that the Samanya Jnanam is there. I know that I am. So it is not like the black hole. One can say that I don't know the black hole. Or one can say that I don't know a certain chemical and organic chemistry, or I don't know what a nucleus is. Something like that one can say. But then you have been using this word I all your life. So this is not totally unknown to you. What is being talked about is not something entirely unknown, and nor is it separated from you by space or time. In fact, you are here and now. Unlike the black hole or neutron star that is somewhere else, or unlike some historical lesson where somebody's talking about some emperor or somebody who is in the past, or something that is going to come in the future, you are here and now. And you are also not totally unknown to you. You already have the Samanya Jnanam. So what is lacking is only the Vishesha Jnanam. You are not lacking an experience of yourself, because you are there in every experience. Without you, no experience is possible. So you are there in every experience. What you require is not a special experience of Atma, because Atma is there in every experience. What is required is a special knowledge about myself that I have been missing all along. And therefore, what is being talked about is you. And it is a wonder if one doesn't understand that, because in every other knowledge, the self-revealing I is there. The self-revealing I is the prerequisite before any other knowledge can take place. So I know that I am, I know that I exist, I know my own existence, and this is a prerequisite to any other knowledge taking place. But the wonder is that I can know so many things in the world, but I continue to remain ignorant about myself. And even after being taught, he still doesn't get it. So that is also a wonder, Bhagavan is saying. And this is why Brahma Vidya is also called a rahasyam. It is called a secret Vidya. But for it to remain a secret, it is not that one has to make an effort to keep it a secret. And that is why one may talk publicly about it also. But then the majority of the people still don't get it. So it remains a secret even after one has taken a loudspeaker and talked about it. It still continues to remain a secret. So Pujya Swamiji gives an example of a joke. So sometimes there is a subtle joke, and after one has said the subtle joke, the other person doesn't get it. There are some rare ones who get it and they may laugh. The majority of the people don't get the subtle joke. And the bigger joke is that even after explaining the subtle joke in detail, there are still a lot of people who still don't get it. So this is something like that. And of course, there is the ignorance which prevents one from getting it. But then there is also the arrogance that sometimes prevents one from getting it. Because because there have been great scientists. There have been great scientists who have discovered so much about the nature of the world and discovered so much about physics and chemistry and all of this theory of relativity, and so many things have been discovered by the great scientists. But then, even if they are told, so it's not that they don't have the intellect to understand or something like that. But then the intellect arrogates itself into thinking that I am the one, right? I am the one who has discovered such and such things. I arrogate myself into thinking that I can discover everything through my mind and senses. And therefore, even if the great scientists are told that Vedanta talks about such and such Atma, this is the nature of the Atma, then what is the first question that they will ask? So, where is the proof for this? Where is the proof for this? So, what one is looking for is that one is looking for proof that is demonstrable to my senses. So there is this arrogance that I have to discover this through my senses, and if my senses cannot validate it, then it cannot be considered valid knowledge. And therefore, even after having listened to it, one actually rejects it, saying that this is something false. And this is due to one's own arrogance. This is due to ashraddha, because one doesn't have the shraddha in the Veda Pramana. And therefore, there are others who don't get it, even after having been taught. And why is this? Why is this so rare? Why is getting this so rare? And the reason is, as we have seen in other contexts, that first of all, it is not available to any of the Laukika Pramanas. That is the first reason. The second is that even if one accepts the Veda Pramana, it requires a qualified mind. And the third is that the tendency to objectify something is so strong that even after listening to it, one somehow tries to experience it and know it as an object of the mind. And therefore, all of these tendencies are very strong. And if we look here, we have discussed this, that how does any knowledge take place? So we have discussed this as the one of the principles of knowledge, that an appropriate and adequate pramana has to come in contact with the prameya for any knowledge to take place. For example, if I have to know a pot, then I have to employ an appropriate and adequate means of knowledge. I have to employ my eyes to know colors. And the means of knowledge that I employ have to be appropriate and adequate. So if I have to know the color of the pot, I cannot insist that I will know it through my ears. So ears are not an appropriate means of knowledge. Means of knowledge has to be appropriate considering the knowledge that I'm trying to gain. And therefore, I have to employ my eyes to know colors. I have to employ my ears to know sounds. It doesn't work the other way around. Moreover, the means of knowledge has to be adequate, meaning that even if I am using an appropriate means of knowledge, that means of knowledge has to function adequately. For example, if there is a cataract in my eye, then even if I use my eyes, I may not gain the knowledge of the colors properly. The yathartha jnanam, the right knowledge, doesn't arise. Why? Because the operation of the pramana is blocked due to some obstruction. And therefore, appropriate and adequate means of knowledge is required. And so also for Atma Jnanam. For Atma Jnanam, Since none of the senses, pratyaksha, is ruled out, it is not a means of knowledge. And Anumana Pramanam is also ruled out. I cannot know the nature of the Atma through inference. I have to come to the Vaidika Shabda Pramana, to the Vedanta Shabdas. The Vedanta Shabdas are the only means of knowing myself, knowing my own nature. And therefore, the appropriate Pramana has to be employed. But a lot of times we see that people are somehow trying to gain Atma Jnanam, but the appropriate Pramana is not employed. Or it may be the other way around, that the pramana is also not appropriately employed. The pramana may be appropriate, but it is not appropriately employed, in the sense that even if words are used, if the one who is employing the words, if the speaker is not familiar with the sampradaya of teaching, if he is not familiar with how to employ the words, avoiding the pitfalls like we have talked, then the words themselves may create pitfalls, and the words, and one may present Vedanta as being some kind of theory, that I am talking about some theory here. This is theoretical knowledge that you have to somehow practice and then gain an experience of Atma in the future. One may come out with such a picture of the entire teaching. And if this happens, then one is constantly looking for something or the other to happen in the future that will liberate me. So moksha becomes a future event that will liberate me somehow. And that is also a subtler form of samsara, where one is seeking purnatvam. One continues to seek purnatvam, not through the world anymore, but through spiritual means. One is a seeker of purnatvam. One still remains a seeker of purnatvam. And therefore, the knowledge doesn't take place. And this is also because of the tendency one has in order to objectify the other. Of course, the second reason why the knowledge may not take place is that even though the appropriate pramana is appropriately employed, there may be some obstruction in the mind of the student in the form of lack of qualifications. The lack of qualifications are an obstruction due to which the knowledge may not take place. And therefore, if one finds that the knowledge is taking place, then it is a rare phenomenon. And in some ways, ironically, even if the knowledge doesn't take place, it is a wonder, because he is able to know everything else in the world except himself, who is present here and now in the form of the very I, that is self-revealing, that has to be there before any other knowledge can take place. So he knows everything in the world. He continues to shed ignorance of the world, but the ignorance of the self continues. And therefore, even if one does not know, it is a wonder. So everything about the Atma is a wonder. If you were to summarize this shloka, everything about the Atma is a wonder. The rare Jnani sees it as a wonder, and the rare listener sees it hears about it as a wonder. And the one who knows about it also continues to know about it as a wonder. And each of these, the rare Jnani, the rare student, the rare knower of the Atma, the Guru who teaches it, all of them are also a wonder. And even the one who doesn't know it, even after having listened to it, is also a wonder. And therefore, Bhagavan concludes the teaching of Atma Jnanam largely with this shloka and the shloka that is going to come next. So the structure, if we look at the structure of this so far, the teaching started with the 11th shloka. And the 12th shloka, Bhagavan said, Natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha. So there Bhagavan introduced the Nitya Atma. And then from the 12th shloka onwards, Bhagavan elaborated on the teaching. So he introduced the Nitya Atma. And then Bhagavan elaborated on the nature of this Nitya Atma, the immortal Atma. And then said that Atma being immortal, there is no reason to grieve. And now in the next shloka, Bhagavan is concluding the teaching by again reiterating that the Atma is Vidya. We will read the next shloka. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam.
Dehi nityamavadhyoyam.
Dehe sarvasya bharata.
Dehe sarvasya bharata.
Tasmat sarvani bhutani.
Tasmat sarvani bhutani.
Natvam shochitum arhasi.
Natvam shochitumarhasi.
We do the sandhi here. Dehi nityam avadhyah ayam. Dehe sarvasya bharata. Tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shochitum arhasi. Bhagavan says, Hey Bharata, meaning O Arjuna. And there is no verb here, so we can supply a verb like bhavati. Bhavati, meaning it is. And what is? Ayam dehi bhavati. Dehi nityam avadhyah ayam is there. So we can combine ayam and dehi. Ayam dehi bhavati. Meaning that this indweller is. Dehi means indweller. This indweller is. And what is it? Avadhyaha. Avadhyaha means it is indestructible. So Bhagavan is using a paryaya padam. Essentially, he means it is nityaha. It is immortal. So Bhagavan is saying it is indestructible. So essentially reiterating that it is indestructible. And why is it indestructible? Why is it immortal? Because it is satyaha. Satyaha. It is the only thing that exists independently, being the Atma, that is Brahman. It alone really exists. Like gold in the world of gold ornaments. The ornaments can come and go, but the gold never comes and goes. Similarly, you being Atma, that is Brahman, you are Satyaha and therefore indestructible. Avadhyaha, you are Nityaha. And also the Atma being partless, since it is partless, it is indestructible. And since it is not material, matter can only destroy matter. Elements, as we have seen, can only destroy other elements. But the Atma is not material, and therefore it is indestructible. And Atma belongs to a higher order of reality. It is like the screen in the movie. Things in the movie can destroy other things in the movie, but nothing in the movie can destroy the screen. Similarly, this Atma, being a higher order of reality, is indestructible. And when is it indestructible? Nityam. Nityam. So, Ayam Dehi. Nityam avadhyaha bhavati. So here Nityam has to be taken to mean is qualifying avadhyaha, meaning it is indestructible. It is indestructible when, if we ask, it is always indestructible. So here Nityam means always. So it is always indestructible. And where is this Dehi? It is in the body, Dehe. So Dehe Sarvasya Bharata. The Dehi in this body is indestructible, is what Bhagavan is saying. And whose body? Sarvasya Dehe. Sarvasya Dehe in all the bodies. And why is it there in all the bodies? Because Atma, is sarvagataha, it is all pervading. This Atma being Brahman is all pervading. It pervades the entire material universe, and this entire material universe includes all the bodies. And therefore, Atma pervades all the bodies, and therefore this Atma that is one, that is Brahman, this one non-dual Atma that is Brahman, is pervading all the bodies. And therefore, it is there as the inner self in all the bodies. And therefore, Sarvasya. So in the bodies of all the beings, the Dehi, the Atma, Brahman that is there is indestructible, is what Bhagavan is saying. And therefore, in the second line, Bhagavan says, Tasmat, therefore, Tvam shochitum na arhasi. Not tvam shochitum arhasi is there. We can say tvam shochitum na arhasi. You do not qualify to grieve. You should not grieve, Bhagavan says. And for whom? Sarvani bhutani. Sarvani bhutani. You should not be grieve for all beings. Because the real nature of all the beings is this one indestructible Atma that is Brahman. And therefore you should not grieve for all beings. So Bhagavan concludes the Atma Jnanam topic here. And if we were to summarize the essence of it, then the essence of it is that you take any jiva, there are two components of the jiva. There is the anatma component and the atma component. Now, if we look at the anatma component and the atma component, now we have to see which one if someone is grieving, which one is one grieving for? Are you grieving for anatma or are you grieving for atma? So let us take the anatma component of the jiva first. The anatma component. And if we take the anatma component of the jiva, then that is anityaha. Atma component is nityaha. So if we look at the anatma component, Bhagavan had very clearly said, Vyaktadini bhutani, Vyaktamadhyani bharata, Vyaktanidhananyeva tatraka paridevana. So this anatma component is always transitioning from being unmanifest to manifest. And it is manifest for some time and then it becomes unmanifest. And the wise do not get attached to this anatma component. The panditaha don't get attached to this anatma component of the jiva. It may be my own anatma or the anatma component of somebody who is near and dear to me. Why? Because this anatma component is constantly transitioning from unmanifest to manifest to unmanifest. It is manifest only in the middle. It is manifest, it has a beginning and an end. And it has had countless manifestations in countless janmas before this janma. It has been manifest as countless physical bodies. And it has had countless relationships in countless janmas before this janma. And even after this janma, it will continue to manifest in countless janmas and have countless other relationships. And if we take any two people who are closely related in this janma, then as we saw in the Chitraketu story, the same two people would have appeared in varying relationships in all the countless janmas before this janma. You are near and dear in this janma, all right, but the same two jivas would have been in different relationships. You may have been relatives, you may have been distant relatives, you may have been strangers, you may have been friends, you may have been neutral parties, you may have been haters, or even enemies, potentially in countless janmas before this one. And therefore, the wise doesn't cling to this idea of me and mine, that this is me and this is mine. He doesn't say about his own anatma or anybody else's anatma. Nasau tava na tasya tvam, as we saw in the Mahabharata shloka, na asau tava, he is not yours. Na tasya tvam, nor are you his. Because this kind of a relationship that I am his and he is mine is based on taking this janma as a standard. But how can you take this janma as a standard when this jiva has got countless other janmas in which you have been in so many different relationships? Which janma do you take as a standard is the question. That is in fact the question that jiva asks in the Chitraketu story. Based on which janma do I say that these are my near and dear ones? So if we say we have to take the current janma as the standard, then very soon the current janma will also become yet another janma. It will become a part of those janmas that are non-standard. So this idea of this anatma, this manifestation of the anatma is fleeting, and thereby the relationships of this manifest anatma are also fleeting relationships. They come and go, and the wise do not get attached to such a fleeting anatma or the fleeting relationships that arise from such a fleeting anatma. So this is the first point. And of course, an extension of this is that this anatma being fleeting, death is certain. Death is certain. And given that death is certain, that is its very nature. Old age, disease, death is certain, that it is its very nature. And the nature of something has to be accepted because it is a choiceless situation. And therefore, with regards to the anatma, this fleeting, the relationships are fleeting, therefore the wise don't get attached and they accept the eventual perishing of this anatma as being a choiceless situation, which has to be accepted. This is the first lesson. We talked about the anatma being fleeting, meaning it is transitioning from unmanifest to unmanifest, and therefore it is anitya. The second point is regarding the anatma, that it is also mithya. It is also mithya. It doesn't have its own independent existence. You can't even say that it really exists. So are you grieving for something whose existence is also not categorizable? You cannot say that it exists. Are you grieving for something that you cannot even say categorically exists? And therefore, the wise understanding the anitya nature, the fleeting nature of anatma and its mithya nature, that it doesn't even exist. Knowing these two, wise do not get attached, nor do they grieve for the anatma. Then what is left? What is left is the atma component. The atma doesn't come and go. The atma is nityaha, and therefore the nitya atma also cannot be grieved for. So this is the summary of the teaching so far. And Bhagavan very clearly says here, Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani. So generally, one is very detached when it comes to the death of somebody else. For example, in the obituary column, one may read about the death of several individuals that one doesn't even know. And when one reads about the death of so many individuals, one is a Jivan Mukta in relation to those kinds of deaths. But then when the death is related of somebody who is near and dear, then it becomes a very big event that one cannot come to terms with. One is not able to come to terms with that. And therefore, Bhagavan explicitly says here, Sarvani Bhutani. So Sarvani Bhutani means with regards to all the jivas. Regards to all the jivas without exception. So that includes the death of the near and dear ones also. So no being is worthy of grief for the one who has Atma Jnanam. Because the Anatma component is fleeting and mithya, is anitya and mithya. It is fleeting and not even real. It is fleeting and cannot be said to even exist. Therefore, it cannot be grieved for. And the Atma component, being immortal, cannot be grieved for. And therefore, how does one become cold in terms of one's own relations? So that is not what is being talked about here. One doesn't have to become indifferent. That is not towards one's relations. That is not what is being talked about here. Basically, one can continue to be in the relationships. One can continue to be in the relationship, and one can continue to help whoever needs my help. One can continue to do one's duties towards other people. One doesn't stop doing any of this. But then what is being talked about is not to get attached, not to emotionally lean upon such individuals who are near and dear ones as as a fundamental support. Because the reality is that nothing, I don't depend upon anything at all for my peace, security, and happiness. That is a reality. But if I start depending upon peace, for my peace, security, and happiness, if I start to depend upon the world, and the world includes the near and dear relationships. If I start to depend that they will continue to be there for my peace, security, and happiness, then that is a mistake. That mistake is arising out of ignorance. And by leaning upon them, I am perpetuating the ignorance and planting the seeds for my own future sorrow, for my own shokaha. I am planting the seeds in such relationships in which I am leaning upon the relationship for my emotional security, for my peace, security, and happiness. And therefore, one has to be wary. A wise person interacts with people in the world. A wise person may also have a family around him. But because of his wisdom, he no longer leans upon the anatma of the other family members for his own peace, security, and happiness, because he has discovered that I independently am of the nature of peace, security, and happiness, being the Atma that is Brahma. And therefore, this is the understanding that I have to come to. So with this verse number 30, as we have said, the teaching from the Atma Jnanam standpoint is over. In the second chapter. Of course, in the rest of the Bhagavad Gita, the same teaching will keep appearing in different forms. And the second chapter, being the summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita, has presented Atma Jnanam in a nutshell here to begin with. And if this is understood, if this teaching is understood, then for a Pandita who has understood this teaching, for an Atma Jnani, there is no shokaha and moha. There is, he transcends, shokam tarati atmavid, he transcends this shoka and moha, symptoms of samsara, he transcends the disease of samsara. Because the root cause, that is Atma Ajnanam, is completely eliminated. But however, Bhagavan acknowledges that the Atma Jnanam, this teaching from the Adhyatmika Drishti, as Bhagavan acknowledged in the prior shloka, it is not easy. The knower of Atma is rare, as he says. The listener is also rare. The knower is rare. In all of this, Bhagavan is telling us that it is not easy to get this teaching. This Vedanta Drishti, Adhyatmika Drishti, Atma Jnanam Drishti, this teaching is not easy to understand and to assimilate. And therefore now Bhagavan comes down one level and addresses Arjuna from the Vyavaharika Drishti. So the earlier one was Vedanta Drishti, Adhyatmika Drishti. Now Bhagavan addresses Arjuna from the Vyavaharika Drishti, from the Veda Purva Drishti, from the Dharmika Drishti, Bhagavan addresses Arjuna. Because one can raise a doubt here, saying that okay, now from whatever you had said, I can understand that Bhishma, the bodies of Bhishma and Drona have to perish. They are also anitya. So I can understand if their bodies perish, they die a natural death. But now, what Arjuna may object, that what you are talking about is you are making me do himsa, that will become the cause of their death. The himsa that you are asking me to do will become the cause of their death. Now, himsa is paramo dharma. So how can I accept that himsa, that the himsa that you are asking me to engage in? How can I go down that path, especially when it will cause the death of people like Bhishma and Drona? So Krishna says that even from the dharmika drishti, if we see, then even from the ethical angle, this war, whatever action I'm asking you to engage in this war is justifiable, Bhagavan says. So you should not have this misplaced grief, misplaced compassion. You should not have that, but engage in your dharma. So the war is not only legitimate from the Adhyatmika Drishti, from the highest Atma Jnanam standpoint, but even from the Dharmika Drishti also, it is legitimate. So we'll read the next shloka. Shloka number 31. Swadharmamapi chavekshya
स्वधर्ममपि चावेक्ष्य
navikampitum
न विकम्पितुमर्हसि
dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat
धर्म्यार्थियुद्धात् श्रेयोऽन्यत्
kshatriyasya na vidyate.
क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते.
So if we do the padachhedaha, swadharmam api cha avekshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmyat hi. So dharmyadhi becomes dharmyat hi yuddhat shreyah anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So Bhagavan says, na arhasi, you cannot or you do not qualify. Na arhasi, in the second quarter is there. Vikampitum na arhasi. Na arhasi, you do not qualify. And you do not qualify to do what? Vikampitum na arhasi. Vikampitum means to waver, to deviate, to stray away from. From what? Your own dharma. So vikampitum na arhasi, you do not qualify to stray away from your own dharma. And having done what? Avekshya. Avekshya in the first quarter is there. Cha avekshya. Avekshya means having considered, having looked at, having observed. So having considered what? Swadharmam api cha. Swadharmam api cha avekshya. So having considered your own duty, your own swadharma also, you do not qualify to deviate from dharma, Bhagavan says. And in the second quarter, Bhagavan says, na vidyate. Na vidyate means it does not exist. And what doesn't exist? Dharmyat hi yuddhat shreyah. Dharmyat hi yuddhat shreyah. Shreyah na vidyate. Shreyah na vidyate. Shreyah means good. Great good. So he says great good. Good does not exist. Shreyaha hina vidyate means that good does not exist. And what kind of good? Anyat. Anyat. Yudhat Shreyaha Anyat. So Anyat Shreyaha hina vidyate means another good. Another good does not exist. Anyat Shreyaha hina vidyate. Another good doesn't exist. Or in other words, greater good does not exist is what Bhagavan is saying. Greater good does not exist. As compared to what? Yuddhat. As compared to a war. Yuddhat anyat shreya hina vidyate. So there is no greater good as compared to a war, Bhagavan says. And what kind of war? Dharmyat. In the third quarter, we have Dharmyat. Dharmyat yuddha. So there is no greater good as compared to a just, fair, righteous war that is in keeping with Dharma, Bhagavan says. And for whom? Kshatriyasya. Dharmyat hi yuddhat shreyaha anyat kshatriyasya is there. So kshatriyasya, so for a kshatriya. So for a kshatriya, there is no greater good than a righteous war that is in keeping with dharma. That is what Bhagavan says. And if we look into the meaning of kshatriya, so I'll take a couple of extra minutes today because we started a bit late. Just a couple of extra minutes before we conclude for today. So kshatriya, if you look at the derivation of kshatriya, then it comes from the word kshata. And kshatat adharmat trayate iti. So kshata means broken. If you look at kshata, it means broken. And that is why we say kshata refers to some kind of broken rice is called kshata. That's why akshata means, we use the word akshata to indicate unbroken rice. So unbroken rice is called akshata because kshata means broken. And in a more, if we go to expand its meaning, it means broken or adharma. So adharma in the society is called kshata. It's a broken society. If the society is broken, means there's adharma all over the place, means it's called kshata. And therefore, kshatat adharmat trayate means one who protects from adharma, that is shata. One who protects is called kshatriya. And how does a kshatriya protect from adharma? Because he gains control. He gains control of the bhumi, of the prithvi. He gains control by victory. He gains control of the prithvi. So Bhagavad Pada uses the word prithvi jayaha. Means that he does prithvi jaya, means he wins over the bhumi or prithvi, and thereby he gains control of it. And why does he gain control of it? Not for his own personal gain, but in order to establish dharma, he gains control of it. So he may engage in destruction, but it is eventually for a constructive purpose, means for the protection of dharma. And how? By bringing those who are engaging in adharma. He brings those who are engaging in adharma to the path of dharma. And if he cannot convert those who are engaging in adharma, if he cannot bring them to the path of dharma, then he, as a last resort, he even neutralizes those who are engaging in adharma. Much like a doctor, if there is a diseased limb, for example, a diseased finger or a part of a finger is diseased, then he may try to heal it for some time, but if it cannot be healed, then he has to amputate it for the sake of the entire organism. And therefore, this is how the Kshatriya brings about dharma. And therefore, Bhagavan says that even if we were to look at it from the point of view of a Kshatriya, then there is no greater dharma than engaging in a war for the sake of restoring dharma. So we'll continue in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.